When you look at how human beings process a sudden, uh, like a completely unexpected event,
Hmm.
the mechanics of our memory are actually incredibly fragile.
Oh, completely. It's a mess.
Right. We operate under this weird illusion of precision. Like, we think our eyes work like these high-definition security cameras, just, passively capturing objective reality.
Which is definitely not how it works.
Not at all. In reality, when adrenaline floods your system, your visual cortex basically starts dropping frames.
Hmm.
The brain acts less like a camera and more like a predictive text algorithm.
Yeah, just scrambling to fill in the missing data with whatever baseline fears or preconceived notions you already have.
Exactly. And that perfectly sets the stage for this sort of true crime biological mystery that we're diving into for you today.
I love that framing.
Yeah. So for this deep dive, we're heading to a local neighborhood in Denmark to examine a classic muddy water eyewitness scenario. We've got these two boys, Kesser and Steen,
Right.
and they're out cruising on their bikes just as they approach this local landmark. It's a house belonging to someone known in the neighborhood as Tante Gren, or Aunt Green.
Okay.
And right there, they get that sudden adrenaline spike, a split-second shadow. They catch a glimpse of the tail of this snake-like animal just like rapidly disappearing into the tall grass.
And then it's just gone. Entirely gone.
Poof! Which brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to take Kesser and Steen's completely conflicting eyewitness accounts and cross-reference them with the scientific profiles of three potential local suspects.
Because we need to figure out what this creature actually was.
Exactly. Or, find out if our research today can definitively solve this, or if Kesser and Steen are going to have to launch a brand new field investigation during their summer holidays.
Which, spoiler alert, field work is hard.
It is. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the boys' initial confusion is just a perfect case study in perception versus reality.
Yeah, because the sighting lasted, what, maybe half a second?
Barely that.
Right, so the adrenaline wears off, they stop their bikes, and the discrepancies in their visual data immediately pop up.
Well, they do agree on a baseline, which I guess is rare enough. They both estimate the creature was about half a meter long, that it was dark, and that it moved super fast into the vegetation.
But that is literally where the agreement ends.
Yeah. From that moment on, their internal algorithms just generate totally different images. Steen's brain processed a grayish animal, and he has this lingering, like, super specific memory of a zigzag stripe running down its back.
Well, Kesser, on the other hand, completely rejects that.
Right. His visual cortex registered something way darker, a true matte black.
Mm-hmm.
And Kesser is already using his pre-existing knowledge to, like, filter his memory. He explicitly argues that it couldn't have been a slow worm because the coloring was just entirely wrong.
It's just like a witness sketch in a police procedural, where two people see the exact same getaway car but swear it was two different colors.
Yes, exactly that. So when a sighting is this brief, how do we even begin to narrow it down without a photograph?
What's fascinating here is that the boys actually realized they were out of their depth. Without a photo, they immediately pulled out a mobile phone on the side of the road and started searching a digital database of animal sightings for clues.
Which is honestly a pretty smart analytical reflex.
Oh, very smart. Because establishing the creature's identity requires looking at local habitats and species behaviors. We have to set up the profiles of our three suspects.
Okay, so let's follow Kesser's logic first with suspect number one, the imposter. Kesser specifically tried to rule out the slowworm, or stolorm in Danish.
Because his brain registered a pure black creature.
Right, and he thought, okay, slowworms aren't black, but when you look at the actual biology of a slowworm, it's such a wild case of convergent evolution, because it's not even a snake.
No, it's classified as a legless lizard, though recent genetic sequencing is kind of complicating that neat little box.
Really?
Yeah, genetics suggest they might actually share a closer phylogenetic proximity to snakes than to many other lizard families.
That is wild. But from a purely visual standpoint, the physical tells are really distinct, right? I mean, it tops out at about 45 to 50 centimeters, which totally fits their half-meter estimate.
It does, but the coloration is what Kesser keyed in on. Slowworms are highly recognizable by these, like, copper or bronze-colored bodies, and they look quite stiff.
Which explains Kesser's immediate dismissal. If you see a jet black shadow, a shiny copper body just does not fit the data.
Nope. And the anatomy gets even stranger. If they had managed to get a close-up look at its face...
Which they definitely didn't.
Right, but if they did, they would have seen movable eyelids. True snakes don't have eyelids. Their eyes are covered by this transparent scale.
A baril. All right.
Exactly. So the idea of a snake-like organism physically turning and blinking at you is a massive biological distinction.
I'm just picturing the ultimate introvert here, like a snake that blinks at you and then just bails.
Well, speaking of bailing, its defensive mechanics are a huge clue. You said it moved rapidly into the grass.
Yeah, super fast.
The slowworm is not built for high-speed evasion at all. Its primary defense mechanism is dropping its tail if it feels threatened.
Oh, like regular lizards.
Exactly. Caudal autotomy.
Yeah.
But the regrowth process is where metabolic constraints really come into play. It doesn't have the energy to regrow bone and muscle.
So what does it do?
It just replaces the lost tail with a simple cartilaginous rod. It regrows as this tiny black cone-shaped tip.
Wow. So it trades half its body mass for survival and gets like a tiny biological placeholder in return?
Pretty much. But the thermal ecology is what really breaks the case for the slowworm. Kesser and Steen saw this thing sprinting across a path.
Yeah, actively moving in the open.
Slowworms just don't do that. They're incredibly cryptic. They prefer shady, damp environments. They barely move more than 10 meters from their primary hiding spot for their entire lives.
10 meters. That is the ultimate homebody.
Right. And to stay warm, instead of basking in the sun like a normal reptile, they'll literally just move into warm anthills.
Wait, they live inside anthills?
Yeah. They just hang out inside active colonies, soaking up the ambient heat generated by the ants, totally unbothered.
That is bizarre.
They're completely harmless, they eat earthworms, and they're heavily protected in Denmark.
Huh.
But honestly, the boys from the Nature and Innovation class had never actually seen a live one before.
Oh, okay.
They'd only seen dead remains. So they didn't really have the first-hand experience to be reliable witnesses for this specific animal.
So they were basically using a mental image of a static, dead specimen to identify a fast-moving target. Yeah, that's a recipe for confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Okay, so if it wasn't the copper-colored slowworm, what do we do with suspect number 2? The danger in the grass. This comes from Steen's memory of a grayish body with a zigzag stripe.
And this is where human pattern recognition kicks in. Our brains are hardwired to spot predatory markers. Steen's zigzag memory points directly to the Hugorm, or the adder.
Which is a big deal, because that's Denmark's only wild venomous snake, right?
Yeah, the only one.
Let's break down the adder's profile. The size definitely overlaps. They range from 35 to 80 centimeters. Females can hit a meter. And the base color kind of validates Steen. They're usually gray or brown.
And they use that highly characteristic zigzag pattern to break up their outline against the underbrush. Males usually have a black zigzag.
Right, it's camouflage from birds, but for humans, it's this glaring warning sign. And their habitat actually matches the bike path sighting much better than the slowworm.
Oh, totally. Adders are ectotherms. They need direct solar radiation to regulate their core temperature. So you'll find them sunbathing on heaths, dunes, bogs, and forest edges.
Because if the temperature drops below 10 degrees Celsius, they're physically too sluggish to even initiate a strike, right? Their muscle fibers need that thermal energy.
Exactly. They hibernate all winter, but in the summer, a sun-drenched path is prime real estate. But we should probably talk about the danger level.
Yes, definitely.
Because a lot of people misunderstand venom ecology. The adder's venom is highly potent, but it's engineered for small rodents, not large mammals like us.
So they really don't want to waste that metabolic energy on a human that can't even eat.
Right. A defensive bite is rarely fatal to a healthy adult, but it absolutely requires immediate medical attention. We're talking rapid swelling, intense pain, redness.
And the first aid protocol is so counterintuitive to what we see in movies.
Oh yeah, never suck the venom out.
Never. Don't suck it out. Don't cut the wound. You just make it worse and spread the venom faster. The strict rule is stabilization. Keep the limb totally still, rest, and get to a hospital.
Immobilization is key. So we have a venomous gray zigzag snake that loves open paths. Steen's memory is looking pretty solid right now.
Well, I'm actually going to push back on that as an investigator, because I'm looking at the genetic variations here, and if some adders are actually solid-colored and lack the zigzag entirely...
Well, Hellenistic adders.
Exactly, the solid black ones. If they exist, how could the boys ever know for sure they weren't looking at a completely harmless black snake?
That is an excellent question. And it's the perfect pivot to our third suspect.
Yeah.
Because the only foolproof way to tell a solid-colored adder from a harmless black snake isn't looking for a missing zigzag. It's looking for yellow spots on the neck.
Which brings us to suspect number 3, the local giant, the grass snake, or Snog.
This is what Kesser was leaning towards with his memory of a dark, matte black creature.
And it is Denmark's largest snake, right? Averaging about a meter long. And it has a completely black body, but with those characteristic yellow or white neck spots right behind the eyes.
Which adders never have.
Ever.
Right, and it's totally harmless, non-venomous.
Huh.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because their hunting behavior is just wild.
No, it's brutal. They hunt near lakes, bogs, and streams, and they feed almost entirely on frogs and toads.
And they don't even use venom or constriction. They literally just swallow these poor amphibians alive while they're still kicking.
It's efficient, and
Yeah.
the way they find them is incredible. They rely on chemoreception using the Jacobson's organ. Right, the vomeronasal organ. Basically, when a grass snake flicks its forked tongue, it's collecting chemical compounds left by a frog. Then it presses those tongue tines into two cavities in the roof of its mouth.
It's literally stereo smelling. If the right side has a stronger frog scent, the snake knows to turn right. It tracks a chemical gradient in 3D space.
That is evolutionary perfection right there. But to keep these apex amphibian hunters around, they need a very specific place to breed, don't they?
They do. They need damp, warm places to incubate their clutches of 20 to 40 eggs in June or July.
Yeah.
And since Denmark isn't exactly tropical, they engineer their own incubators.
Yes, using compost heaps, right?
Exactly. They actively seek out rotting straw stacks, dung hills, or washed-up plants on the shore. They're exploiting the fermentation heat.
It's just brilliant. The bacteria in the compost break down the organic material, releasing heat, and the snake just uses that as a natural oven for her eggs.
She outsources the thermal heavy lifting to microbes.
I love it. And this all ties directly back to our eyewitnesses, because Kesser and Steen actually have a history with grass snakes in this exact neighborhood.
They do. They've previously spotted small ones down by the bog lake.
And they remember seeing a big fat one utilizing the microclimate behind a shed near the cliff down by the fjord, so there's a strong local precedent.
Which makes it a highly compelling circumstantial case. Kesser's memory of a black body fits perfectly, and the local geography supports it.
So if we synthesize all of this, the visual data, the behavior, the geography, we can definitely say it was a grass snake, right? Case closed.
Well, not quite. This is where research and probability hit a wall. Proper documentation is required.
Because they didn't get a photo.
Right. They only have an ultra-short, adrenaline-fueled description. To avoid making wild guesses, they did the right thing by checking that database to see what was most probable in their area.
But probability isn't proof.
Exactly. It just tells you what's statistically likely, not what actually crossed the path in that half-second window. Without a photo, it's a cold case.
Which means, for Kesser and Steen, they absolutely cannot officially close this case today. They are definitely going to have to launch a brand new investigation during their summer holidays, armed with all this new knowledge.
They'll have to get back out by Tante Grun's house and actually look for the structural stiffness of a slowworm, or the camouflage of an adder, or those yellow markers of a grass snake.
Secure that definitive photographic proof. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, I hope you remember this deep dive the next time you catch a fleeting shadow in the grass.
Don't just let your brain default to panic.
Exactly. Stop and look closer. Look for those neck spots or zigzags or, maybe even a blinking eye if you're lucky.
Because honestly, if the legless slowworm can literally drop its own tail to escape, and the grass snake is out there hunting using a specialized Jacobson's organ, it makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
How many other invisible, highly specialized biological dramas are playing out in your own backyard right this very second, just waiting for you to pause and look closer?